好，咁我哋就開始啦。I will use Cantonese to make your introduction first. OK， 歡迎大家過到嚟今次一個沙龍啦。咁今次呢一個沙龍咧，我哋就邀請咗3位由印尼、韓國同埋呢一個菲律賓嘅activist 啦，同埋公民社會領袖咧，就過嚟香港去介紹一下佢哋自己嘅運動啦，同埋究竟佢哋可以俾到啲咩啟示我哋咧咁樣。咁呢一個活動咧就係由呢一個 Asia Democracy Network 亞洲民主網絡去主辦嘅。咁我而家maybe Sue you can introduce ADN first.
Okay, I'll do my spiel that I prepared. Thank you. My name is Sue, and I'm the program manager at the Asia Democracy Network. Thank you for sacrificing your Friday evening to be with us today. It's a very full crowd tonight, and I'm really happy to see all of you. And we're very excited to be here and share our experiences and to also listen from you about what's going on in Hong Kong. Today's event is being live streamed through Stan News Media as well as the Asia Democracy Network's Facebook page. And and just to kind of give you an introduction of what we do and who we are, ADN is a civil society-led multi-stakeholders platform consisting of a network of regional networks that covers a diverse array of themes under their large umbrella of democracy, which such as human rights, elections, women's rights, migrants' rights, peace, development, media freedom, transparency, just to name a few. And we have 11 regional networks members, and which consist of altogether over 200 national organization members. And our goal is to strengthen regional solidarity and to promote and defend democracy in Asia. So one of ADN's main priorities is to promote democracy, and our strategy to do so is to reimagine democracy within the context of Asia, creating our own narrative in telling the Asian story of our democracy struggle. Along those lines, we wanted to try something new and create more content that tells this story. This event today with our live streaming that's happening now is a pilot, hopefully, of an online series of dialogue with youth across Asia to gauge and also engage on your perspectives of democracy and also have an opportunity to exchange and debate on current issues and the state of democracy in Asia. And our goal is to visit or facilitate a dialogue among youth like this in a city or country near you very soon, and we hope that we can continue to do this. And we're honored to be here in Hong Kong to kind of launch this pilot. We were very, very honored to be here because the courage and passion captured the hearts and empowered many fellow democracy advocates across Asia, and not only Asia, but across the world. And I want you to know that, and I hope you do know that from us. And we really thank our co-organizers, the Hong Kong Civil Hub, which Johnson will kind of explain a little bit more about. And and they've been very helpful in working with us to put this together very last minute. This was very last minute for us, and we also want to thank the panels who are here on such short notice. And I want to acknowledge that many of them changed their previous appointments or engagements that they had because they really wanted to be here and speak to you. So I will hand it back. I thank you for being here again, and I'm looking forward to the rich discussions, and I'll hand it back to Johnson.
好多謝喎！今次咧真係好多謝ADN 啦，就係其實呢個活動咧係2個禮拜之前我先至同 Sue 咧係講就話，不如我哋有3個國家嘅 activist 嚟香港，咁所以喺咁短時間裏邊可以做到呢一個活動咧，咁就係要俾啲掌聲。咁咧就我係今日嘅主持啦，楊正賢啦，咁我就係香港公民聯繫嘅主 公民聯繫係咩嚟嘅咧？簡單嚟講就係一個民間團體，我哋希望咧可以透過增強同國際社會嘅連結啦，包括呢一個公民社會同埋政策倡議嘅團體咧，去講翻香港嘅一啲民主、人權、法治方面嘅發展嘅。咁我哋定期都會製造一啲嘅報告啦，去講翻。好，咁我哋都會咧係定期去即係講翻香港啲嘅情況啦，希望可以去倡議到香港嘅即係人權狀況嘅。咁上一年嘅時候，我哋都出版咗一本關於中國鋭實力啦，即係佢點樣去中國譬如點樣喺選舉上邊或者公民社會上邊去入侵香港嘅公民社會等等，咁係製作呢個報告。咁嚟緊咧，其實我哋都希望可以寫到一份報告係關於呢一個反送中運動，可以係即係邀請到啲學者啊，以至係運動參與者去講翻一啲運動嘅分析嘅。咁唔講太多呢一個香港司法公民聯繫啦。咁我哋今日咧真係好榮幸可以邀請到3位嘅公民社會領袖啦。咁第一位咧就係 Ivanka， 咁咧就佢係菲律賓過嚟嘅一位運動者嚟嘅。咁佢係喺呢一個菲律賓嗰度去搞呢個 LGBT 運動啦。以至大家有冇聽過杜特爾特？大家應該聽過杜特爾特啦，就係呢一個菲律賓嘅總統。咁你知道，亦都其實佢係透過呢一個反毒戰，其實係殺咗好多人嘅。咁究竟菲律賓喺呢一個咁艱難嘅環境底下，佢哋可以點樣去抵抗呢個極權政府嘅revival 咧？咁呢一個一陣大家可以聽下佢講啦。咁第二位嘉賓咧就係嚟自印尼嘅 Ichal 啦。咁佢就係呢一個亞洲民主網絡嘅秘書長嚟嘅。咁以前咧佢亦都係呢一個97年，即係呢一個蘇哈托威權時期咧嘅一個學生領袖。咁咧佢喺做完學生領袖之後咧，其實佢就開始咧做好多關於選舉上面嘅監察同觀察，去防止一個選舉上邊嘅舞弊啦。咁而家佢亦都係揾緊呢一個 Asian Democracy Network 咧，去嘗試將東亞同埋東南亞嘅公民社會去連結一齊，去倡議呢一個民主同埋人權嘅價值嘅。咁最後一位咧都榮幸啦，係請到 Taho 啦，即係呢一個韓國嘅公民社會領袖。咁咧佢有好多頂帽，咁其中一頂帽咧就係個名都幾勁嘅，就係 People Solidarity for Participatory Democracy。咁佢係一個韓國一個好大嘅公民社會網絡啦。咁佢哋都係倡議呢一個參與式民主，而佢亦都有參過一個就係80年代嘅韓國民主運動啦。但係更加近期咧，就係16、17年嘅時候，當呢個白港委涉及舞弊。佢咧就係其中一個創立反朴槿惠，要求朴槿惠倒台心戰室，佢哋真係叫做 Situation Room 心戰室嘅其中一個 founder 嚟嘅。咁你都可以聽下一陣佢點樣。頭先佢亦都食飯嗰陣同我講過就係話，哇！嗰6個月你見到好多韓國人喺條街嗰度攞住個蠟燭，好開心喺度歡呼。但係佢話佢回想起嗰6個月咧，佢真係唔想再翻轉頭，佢真係好辛苦佢覺得。咁所以一陣你可以聽下究竟即係喺個心戰室裏邊有幾辛苦啦。咁同埋究竟佢哋係點樣可以做到一個咁長期嘅運動，都可以 keep 住嗰套氣，都可以繼續令到個公民社會係繼續去動員。最後咧係爭取到呢一個朴槿惠下台嘅。咁我唔再講太多啦。So let's invite our guests. We can sit in the front, maybe we can have Ivanka first to share your movement. All right.
So, good evening everyone. My name is Ivanka and I'm from the Philippines. I'm with the organization called Camp Queer. And I would like to start by saying how excited and happy I am to be speaking here tonight. And also by expressing my deepest admiration and solidarity to the people of Hong Kong. Your courage is a real inspiration
it's like a ray of light for many activists all over the world who are fighting for their rights in the face of anti-democratic attacks from authoritarian governments. And seeing a lot of young people here tonight reminds me actually of my first protest. I was in college back then, and it was a protest against my country's Commission on Elections. And the issue at that time was that the Commission on Elections barred an LGBTQ party from running for Congress because, according to them, LGBTQ people are a threat to the youth and are immoral. So it was a small protest. There were just about like 50 of us standing in the small square outside of the government building. But what I remember most about this protest was the rage and indignation that I felt that an arm of the government, which is supposedly a secular government, is actually passing judgments against my morality, and is, as a result, regulating my right to political participation because of that. And you know, rage and indignation are actually like one of the major emotions that drive people to protests, to take to the streets despite the risks to their lives. And but there are also other emotions that drive people to protests. There could be hope, like for a better society, or there could be compassion, like for people who are bearing the brunt of oppression. And while people may have different reasons for showing up in protests, most, if not all of them, are strong emotions. And like from what we know from our experiences, we probably know that, you know, strong emotions are difficult to sustain. Not that the reasons why you had these emotions to begin with have, you know, disappeared, but it's just that it's human to feel tired or overwhelmed or hopeless or frustrated. And I've seen many movements fizzle out despite having had a strong start, like labor unions that, despite popular support at the beginning, back up after years of being on strike, or issue-based movements that, you know, once new issues or more pressing issues arise, eventually fail to capture the interest of people. So when the strong emotions have fizzled out, how can we keep movements from doing the same? So this is something that I actually have been thinking a lot about as a queer activist in the Philippines. Back home, I'm not really a big shot activist or mobilizer like my colleagues here. But my history as an activist can actually be best characterized as a history of trial and error. And trust me, there was a lot of trying and a lot of errors. And I've been with many organizations in the past 10 years. I've worked with different groups of people. I've been thinking with them, debating with them to form hypothesis or a sort of theory about resistance. This hypothesis is basically an analysis of the specific ways that certain group of people are facing oppression and linking those specific forms into bigger, more structural issues. That hypothesis also includes a vision of the change or transformation that we wish to see in society, and ideas on what needs to be done in order to realize this vision. And I've been with organizations, for example, that looked at discrimination against LGBTQ people as a singular issue with no class dimension. And I've also been with organizations that forefronted economic issues and looked at gender as a secondary or somewhat less important issue. And from these experiences, I've gained a lot of lessons, and eventually my hypothesis for resistance has evolved. And I recently co-founded an organization called Camp Queer. So we are basically a group of queer and transgender people who are trying to build a movement that highlights solidarity and intersectionality as practices of resistance. Since our members come from and have learned from other movements as well, some of them from the workers' movement, some of them from student organizations, we also come to the organization with different lessons learned as well. And from these different experiences and lessons, we have created our own hypothesis for resistance in our organization. And that hypothesis is this, that it is by working with other movements that we can achieve our goal of liberation for LGBTQ people. And we work with various movements by joining their struggle, and in the process of joining their struggle, we also highlight to them our struggles as LGBTQ people. So it's like a symbiotic relationship where each of our organizations and movements transform each other to be more inclusive of each other. And like currently, we are part of a coalition of workers and youth organizations that support a labor union that is currently on strike and that calls for an end to labor contractualization. And in our discussions with them, we try to link and raise the issue of unfair labor practices with the discrimination that LGBT people face in the workplace. So from the trials and errors that I've made as an activist, like I have a few like reflection points about how to keep movements from fizzling out. And the first one is that first reflection point is that we need to build stronger movements. And let me contextualize the work that we do in the broader human rights context in the Philippines. So currently, the Philippines is in a context of a national human rights crisis. Like we have the war against drugs that has killed like 27,000 plus people, most of whom are from poor communities. We have the persecution of human rights defenders, journalists, lawyers, and politicians who are seen to be the enemies of the current administration. There's also intensified economic violence through tax laws and dominance of labor contractualization. And there's this normalization of violence against women and LGBTQ people through our dear president's like misogynistic and sexist remarks, very, very frequent remarks. And it feels as though every day you wake up, like there's always something terrible in the news. And yet, the recent movements that were born out of big issues like, for example, the hero's burial that was given to our country's former dictator, President Marcos. A movement that drew out not just the victims of human rights violations, because there were massive human rights violations at that time. Not only the victims, but also young people who like did not experience like the life under the dictatorship. And this movement also has a composition that cut across partisan lines, ideological differences, and sectoral interests. So there were like more experienced, more established political groups marching with like the younger activists, like people who are not initiated to any kind of political activism prior to that movement. But the thing is that this movement, for example, it was unable to sustain the momentum and the fire that are needed in responding to the frequent attacks in human rights and democratic freedoms. Like even established mass movements that have been around for decades and have played a huge role in the fall of the Marcos dictatorship seem unable to mobilize the necessary mass of people to really challenge the administration. Like seeing the numbers of Hong Kong protests, like it's something that we can only dream about in the Philippines right now. And you know, I was having like a lot of discussions as well with fellow activists, wondering why, you know, we can't do something like that, and how we can actually attempt to at least try to build stronger movements, and what actually are the tasks of movement builders. And there were discussions on these few things. So the first thing is that we need to strengthen people, or more specifically, creating a stronger base of people in movements. So we need to emphasize with people on what their stake is in these movements, and emphasize to them like what that they actually play a significant role in these movements. To make people aware of their stake in movements, the task of movement builders is to explain in the most accessible manner what's in it for people, based on their positions in society and how the issues actually affect them. And similarly, movement builders must be able to make people feel that they have significant roles to play by letting them take on tasks and play a part in decision-making processes. So second is the need for stronger structures. Earlier, there was a lot of discussion about how the terrain in the Hong Kong protests is that there's faceless but leaderful kind of landscape. But I would like to make a case for the need for stronger structures and movements, you know, that will make coordination and decision making more efficient and will ensure the sustainability of movements. You know, these structures do not need to be like the traditional hierarchical kinds of structures, but it could be horizontal. It could still reflect the commitment to democracy that the movement is fighting for, and it could actually take like different forms. Like it could be a network or an alliance or even an organization. Like for as long as it serves as a constant space or platform where people can work together, to think together and plan together, create shared visions together, hold each other accountable for the work that needs to be done. And these spaces need to be open and empowering for those who are newly initiated to political activism, because it can be intimidating for young people who are like joining their protests for the first time too. So this space has to be like really inclusive and empowering for these young people. And the third reflection point is that there is a need to strengthen the theory for change. Like movements must be able to hone their theories for change as they learn from their failures and successes. Like for example, in the case of Hong Kong, like what were the lessons learned from the umbrella movement? You know, we need to learn from these like major mobilizations in order to like build on those learnings and create better practice of resistance. And this entails like assessing what worked back then and what could have been done better, like having discussions that link like the issue of the day to the issue back then, and also linking these issues to broader and more enduring structural issues. And also a theory that that plans for the future, you know, for the movement to be better prepared for backlash and achieve long-term goals. So building stronger movements are not only about achieving tactical goals, but it's also about strengthening people by creating structures where people could learn skills and build greater commitments towards social change, and building upon the past experiences to improve their theory for change in order to have a better practice of resistance and defend whatever victories have already been won. And second and last point of reflection is that like these movements need to be intersectional. So when I was starting out in LGBTQ activism, there were a lot of discussions and actions within the LGBTQ movement that were centered on pushing for a policy that would penalize discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. Back then, I did not have enough awareness of the issues that are being faced by other minority groups in the Philippines. And also, I have no awareness on how structural oppressions based on class or disability or gender or ethnicity also have impacts on the LGBTQ sector in specific and often compounded ways. Similarly, I've also worked with the farmers movement and other movements. I saw that in these movements, there was also a lack of understanding on how homophobia and transphobia, for example, further compounds the oppression being faced by poor people or by farmers and by indigenous peoples. And as a result, because of this lack of understanding in both, or limited understanding in these movements, there are blind spots, that result from this kind of single issue activism, and that these blind spots actually have very real implications to these movements. So these blind spots mean that the urban poor movement, for example, lacked the tools necessary to respond to urban poor LGBTQ's heightened vulnerability to displacement and development aggression. It also meant that the workers' movement, which sees straight, cisgender, male industrial workers as the default worker, is unable to include in its calls the issues faced by many LGBTQ people in the informal economy. It also meant that LGBTQ organizations, which are mostly from the middle class, fail to include poor LGBTQs in their programs. And as a result, these people are left behind by these movements. And people who are situated in these blind spots, who have so much at stake in these struggles but are not being included in the conversations and provided the space for real and meaningful participation in these movements. So this is why intersectionality is such an important tool for movements. Intersectionality is a lens that allows movements to better understand and respond to the different ways people experience oppression. And having intersectional movements means doing away with blanket solutions. It means putting a spotlight on issues that are not traditionally seen as issues of democracy or traditionally workers' issues or LGBTQ issues, and really looking at them and looking at how interconnected they are. And but for example, the struggle for democracy. The struggle for democracy is something that women and LGBTQs and migrant workers have a lot of stake in. They have a stake in defining what democracy means for them. They have a stake in working for democracy, and they also have a stake in enjoying democracy. So, all of these may seem difficult. I know, from the earlier discussions, there are a lot of complexities and challenges that are being faced by big movements. But yeah, they may seem difficult especially when you are faced with a strong and organized opposition. But I think that with strong and intersectional movements, we can really harness our power as a people. Because when movements fizzle out, the backlash can be great. So our work is cut out for us. So thank you.
Thank you, Ivanka. I think you mentioned several important points about movement, which is the role of movement builder and also the importance of intersectionality. And maybe when we have the Q&A sections, I would love to learn more about how when you're working on minority issues, how do you make the others to pay attention on your issues and make a link to the larger movement? Because in a lot of mass mobilization, oftentimes people will say, hey, we are dealing with the greater evil, so the other issue which is just, we are not annoying them, but we'll save them for later. So I wonder, how you deal with this situation. And now we're going to invite our next guest now, and he is going to introduce his experiences in the candlelight revolutions. Okay, thank you.
So we'll have Taeho Lee give his presentation, but before he does, we're going to show you a video. Yes, so I'll be we kind of ask for your understanding, because we'll be taking a little bit more time because I'll be kind of interpreting for him as well, and also we have this long video. But we wanted to, this is a video about the candlelight revolution, kind of the history of the 6 months. So.
I'm Tae Lee from Seoul. I cannot speak English well, so she will help me. And mainly, I'll show you the slide instead of my speech. Okay. Let me introduce myself. I'm staff of Korean civil society organization, People's Solidarity for Participatory Democracy, and also former one of the coordinator of the emergency citizen action for Pakistan resignation. Let me speak Korean. 박근혜 대통령에 대한 스캔들은 저기 보시는 저런 문제들 때문에 일어났습니다. 대체로 보면은 그 권력을 남용한, 부패한 했다는 거죠.
So the issue that was at hand that kind of ignited the protest can be summarized here on this slide, and one of the main reasons was the abuse of power by President Park.
법적인 절차를 보면 2016년 12월 달에 국회에서 탄핵안이 가결되고요. 보시다시피 300명 중에 234명이 동의해서 가결되고, 그 다음에 헌법재판소에서 3월 11일 날 최종 결정이 나고 선거가 9월 달에 일어나면서 일단락이 되는 사건입니다.
So major highlights of the movement was that on December 10th in 2016, there was a motion by the parliament that to impeach the president, and as you can see in the slide, out of the 300 seated National Assembly members, 78% or 234 lawmakers voted in favor of the impeachment. And then March 11th, the Constitutional Court, decided to impeach her, and then we had the following election of the year.
그것을 위해서 2016년 가을부터 2017년 3월달까지 캔들 랠리를 했고 20회 했고, 저희가 추산해 보기로는 그동안 1,600만 명이 참여한 것으로.
And also, as you saw in the video earlier, the candlelight rally was from 2016 till early spring 2017. Over 20, we convened over 20 times, and we are estimating that up to 16 million people came to the streets during that period.
여기는 나온 숫자입니다. K는 thousand고 million.
So this is the poster for each time that for each week that the protest happened, and it's the numbers. So the first one, 30,000 people came, and towards the end, up to a million showed up.
이때가 제일 많이 모였는데 이게 아마 그 임피치먼트가 그 의회에서 가결되기 직전이죠.
So in December 3rd, that was the most. 2.3 million people came, and that was right before the parliament went into vote to whether or not to impeach.
그리고는 좀 줄어들었다가 3월달에 가면 이제 다시 밀리언이 모이는데 그게 이제 헌법재판소에서 최종 정해지기 직전입니다.
So the numbers kind of decreased again in the middle, but then in February 25th, you could see that we almost hit over a million on February 25th, and that was around the time the Constitutional Court went in to decide.
이렇게 많은 사람들이 모였는데 여기 모인 사람들은 도대체 어떤 사람들이었냐, 이걸 설명드리려고.
So many people gathered, came to the streets to protest, and I'll kind of explain to you who came and who the we are.
우선 그 코올리션에 참가했던 단체들은 2,300개 단체였고요. 그리고 70개 도시에서 촛불 집회를 하죠.
So the Emergency Citizens Action for Parkin's Resignation was a coalition of over 2,300 civil society groups that organized and coordinated over 70 protests at one time across the country.
그 정치적 성향은 대체로 리버럴한 그룹들입니다.
Yeah, and most of the people who participated can be identified as liberals.
근데 이제 참여한 사람들은 꼭 리버럴한 사람들만은 아니었어요. 자기가 진보적이라고 생각한 사람은 한 33% 정도고 나머지는 중도거나 보수거나 난 모르겠다 이렇게 했어요.
So many of the organizers were liberal, but if you look at the demographic of the participants, that wasn't necessarily so. So if we saw that 39% identified as progressives, almost 20% as centrist, and then over 70% as conservatives.
여기 participants 참여 경험 있는 사람이라고 하는데 참여한 사람은 저희가 아까 1,600만 명이라고 그랬잖아요. 1,600만 명은 한국 남한 인구의 3분의 1 정도 됩니다.
So the participants, the people who actually partook in the movement, I mentioned earlier 16 million, and if we look at the population of Korea, that's almost a third of the country.
그리고 그러면 3분의 2는 집회에 한 번도 나가본 적이 없는 거죠. 그래도 어쨌든 여론조사에 의하면 탄핵에 찬성했던 사람은 전체 파퓰레이션의 한 80% 정도.
So you could see that if a third of the population participated, then we could say that 2/3 did not participate in the movement. But if you look at the opinion polls, over 70 to 80% of the respondents actually favored the impeachment, and as we mentioned earlier, 78% of the lawmakers voted.
이게 진보적인 사람만 아니라 사실 동의했던 사람들 대답 반 정도는 보수적이라고 스스로 생각하는 사람들도 탄핵에 찬성했다는 거죠.
So it's safe to say that majority of even the progressives were in favor of the impeachment of President Park.
그리고 나온 사람들은 그래서 어떤 단체에 속한 사람들은 매우 적었을 거예요, 그죠?
So many of those who actually participated in the movement or in the protest, a very minority of them are actually affiliated with civil society organizations.
근데 그럼 나온 사람들이 대다수가 조직 안 된 사람이냐, 조직 안 된 그런 매스냐, 그건 아니라는 거죠.
But can you say that if the minority of them were not affiliated with civil society organization, is it safe to say that this was not an organized protest, or they're not part of an organized group? No, that's not the case.
사실은 단체가 불러낸 건 아니지만 스스로들 다 어떤 조직이든 갖고 있었다는 거죠. 특히 SNS 같은 걸로 여러 가지 네트워크가 만들어져서 서로 스스로 조직하는 사람들이었다는 거죠.
So it's safe to say that they might not have been affiliated to a certain civil society organization, but they were some part of organized platform like social network services, SNS, and that's how they engaged.
다시 말하면 이 오거나이저라고 그랬지만 이 사람들이 오거나이징한 건 아니죠. 이 사람들이 그냥 공간을 제공했고 이 오거나이저가 리드했다고 그러는 것도 말이 안 되죠. 시민 스스로가 리드한 거죠.
So we labeled here organizers, the Emergency Citizens Actions Group, but it's not correct to say they're the ones who coordinated or organized. They just provided the space and platform. The citizens organized themselves and came out.
그래서 다양한 사람들이 나오는데 이 깃발이 동의를 번역 못했는데요. 혼자 나온 사람들이라는 깃발입니다.
So a lot of these were, if you look at, there were a lot of flags among the crowd, and those were represented, what groups or what organization they're affiliated with. And this flag, it says, people who came alone.
혼자 나온 사람 심심하지? 일로 와 이런 거죠.
So it represents a diverse crowd, and they kind of said, whoever is alone, lonely, you want to join us, come to our group, and that was like the indicator.
이거는 풍뎅이를 연구하는 모임이라는 건데요. 이것도 역시 풍뎅이를 진짜 연구하는 모임이 아니라 이런 사람도 나와도 돼 이런 깃발이라는 거죠. 누군가 만드는 거예요.
So they kind of targeted a diverse group, and that second flag it says
a group that researches what is that